little bit. So this session, as I said, is going to be concrete strategy here. We're going to review the importance of parent caregiver engagement and the involvement in the well-being of their children and family. Okay? To do that, we have an incredible speaker I'd like to introduce on the next screen, and that would be Melissa Hanna. Melissa Hanna has been the executive director of United Parents since 2021, steering the ship with the same determination she has used to navigate a life of service to her community. Joining United Parents in 2017, Melissa has been instrumental in advocating for parent caregiver rights across California, while also balancing the daily chaos of raising an 8-year-old, tending to her animal, and cultivating her garden. Melissa, how do you do it? Her personal oasis of calm. So with that, we want to say, Melissa, we are so excited to be here with you today. Participants, we're so excited to engage with you today. And this is how we give a round of applause to people in a virtual arena, because you can either unmute yourself and clap it up, or you hit a little emoji, and this is how we say, thank you for being here. Welcome to the stage. Thank you, Melissa.
You for that, Jessica. What a nice intro, right? And I'm looking at my picture. I'm like, I need a new headshot. Actually, that wasn't even a headshot. It was a selfie in the office. Somebody had said, "Oh, you got those bio, like you have to send your bio and a picture." I'm like, "No." And it's kind of like your driver's license, right? At the DMV, you're like, I want to use like an old, beautiful picture that I have. And I'm like, get with the times, Melissa. You're not 18 anymore. Anyway, welcome everyone. It's good to see you. I did notice that when you, Jessica, you're pretty, strong arming everyone into making sure that they share or they have their video showing when they're in the breakout session. I did see a couple people drop off, so that's okay. It happens. We don't want you here anyway. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm gonna throw in some humor. I tend to try to throw in humor throughout, and sometimes I need to learn like when it's appropriate and when it's not. So um, just let me know. All right, so let's get started. Yay. So this is the Parent Engagement Toolkit. So good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. Trying to like learn a little bit of Spanish here. My daughter's half Mexican, so both of us are really trying. I want to make sure that she learns enough Spanish to be able to, converse, especially in the state of California. Anyway, buenos dias. I'm not going to go into any more Spanish because I don't want to embarrass myself. For those of you who don't know me, I'm, Melissa Hanna, the executive director of United Parents. And just to let you all know, when I was asked to do this presentation, actually it's been, Caltrin, you guys are like on it. Like you guys, this is like 6 months ago, you guys reached out to me, and I am like I am so like last minute. I'm always late. Like I'm just gonna throw it out there. Like I am late to everything. Anytime my daughter's late to school, it's because I took her. And so you guys are so prepared, and I love that. And then I was like, all right, like we got this, no problem. And then I saw the registration list growing. And then suddenly I was like, do I really want to still do this? Um, and then I started going, do I even know what I'm talking about? Of course I do. That's why I was asked to do this, right? Um, but I just also question, like, will anyone learn something you already don't know? When you know something and you've been in it and you do it and it's a part of your life and your journey, you feel like everyone knows it too. And so I kind of had a little bit of those thoughts going through, like everyone already knows this stuff. Like they're not gonna learn anything new. And then it was like, that's why they're here. They're here to learn something new. So um everything else, kind of all the other questions, am I wearing the right shoes? Am I wearing the right outfit? The beauty in Zoom, any of these Zoom sessions, the way for me to help myself be less nervous is kind of like, did you ever hear when you present in person, you have to imagine everyone wearing like black socks or something, right, to help yourself with the nerves. So I'm just imagining you all are dressed in your professional gear from the waist up, and then the waist down, you guys are in your jammies. So I'm just gonna go through this whole presentation like that. That's how I did it in Zoom too. I'm not gonna lie. I wore my jammies quite often. My daughter would come into the room and go, "What's going on here?" And I'm like, so anyway, we're gonna have a good time. I'm gonna teach you guys some great parent engagement tools. In all seriousness, I'm really excited to be here with you today. I'm a little nervous. I'm gonna be honest and transparent throughout, and I want you all to be honest and transparent throughout. Um, Even though this is something that I know, it's still a little, like, what is it? Speaking in public is you'd rather die than speak in public. So, but I wouldn't, I'd rather speak in front of you guys. So anyway, I want to acknowledge I'm not an expert in this room. I'm also here to learn from you all. So I want you all to understand you're going to be learning some things today, but I also want to learn from you. I'm really excited to hear what you have to say. What works for you in your community? What works with the family members that you work with or through your organization? And I'm here to learn and just truly value the insights and experiences you all bring to the table. So United Parents, if I could see everyone, I'd ask, like, if anyone has heard of us. So United Parents, we're located in Ventura County. I'm actually in my office here in Camarillo right now, but Ventura County, and we are kind of coastal county. Um, we started about 30 in 1990, grassroots nonprofit. Ellen Linder is our founder. She had a son she adopted who had behavioral health needs, reached out to the county, was like, I need support. There wasn't enough support for the parents. So in her living room, Ellen started a support group, and that's how United Parents grew in 1990. We've had contracts with the county, our local behavioral health, Ventura County Behavioral Health. We've had contracts for over 20 years. Our main contract that we're known for is our parent partner contract. So we have had a parent partner program for many years now, since 1991, where we have parents with lived experience. So I would say probably of all of our services, 75 to 80% of the staff here at our organization are parents with lived experience of raising a child with a mental health need. And then just about in 2017, actually, why I was hired at United Parents, we got a grant through the Mental Health Services Oversight and Accountability Commission to provide training and education for parents and caregivers throughout the state. So, and because it was such a heavy task, and we are a small grassroots, best kept secret, as somebody said, we had to have partners. So we partnered up with quite a few other agencies throughout the state to help us talk to parents, provide training, really advocate for parents throughout the state. Some of our partners, California Mental Health Advocates for Children and Youth, or CAMACE. Some of you might know the annual CAMACE conference are one of our partners. We have the African American Healthy Families Coalition. We have Side by Side, California Alliance of Caregivers. We have the Whole Child in LA County, and if I forgot any, I'm sorry. And then United Parents, we lead this. So what we have to do with this contract through the MHSO, we have to do an annual report. And so we contract with the Social Policy Institute through San Diego State University, and they help us put together our annual report. Our annual report is all based on parent feedback, everything the parents tell us throughout the year, what we learn throughout the year. We engage with parents, and they pretty much, their voice helps us write these annual reports. The last annual report, I really thought we need to have something like a toolkit or something people can walk away with. So we put together in our annual report this toolkit, this exact toolkit, something that is a standalone document that they don't have to read the whole report. You can just pull out. And then I got a lot of recognition and calls. So I was like, it must have been something good. So Our vision is to prioritize the developmental and personal needs and mental health needs of the whole child for safety and family preservation. And our goal is to strengthen parenting, improve family function, and enhance the whole child's well-being. And this picture in the middle is on one of our annual reports. We reached out to parents to send us their own artwork. So one of our State of the Community reports, we have parent artwork, and this was during COVID. One of the parents drew this for us, and this was what she said was her new norm. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. It almost seems so distant now, right? But it was just 4 years ago. We were in a pandemic. So thanks to the Social Policy Institute, we put together this great toolkit. All right. So we are gonna go to poll 1. This is where you start getting a little interactive. You don't just listen to me. So this is your experience level of how familiar are you with strategies for parent caregiver engagement? Are you very familiar, somewhat familiar, or not familiar? I realized I should have asked this like before so I knew what I was getting into, but this is good to kind of gauge where everyone is. So somewhat. All right. So we got a lot of the somewhats. Give you another second. Come on, you guys. So then you all know also when you go on your breakout sessions, you know, like you get a little bit of a feel for the participants here. We have 5 seconds. Somewhat familiar, not familiar at all, very familiar. All right. I'm gonna, okay, sorry. I forgot to talk to Caldrin about that. They're overseeing the poll. So, all right. Looks like somewhat familiar is the majority, 47 out of 69 who participated said they were somewhat familiar with the strategies for parent caregiver engagement. All right. Here we go to the next slide. All right. So our toolkit, here we go. The reason why, again, we put this in our State of the Community report is because parent engagement has been more and more significant. And we've also seen, and I'm sure you guys are all can attest to this, I do a lot of statewide work and I'm in some statewide committees. Youth voice is also very important as well. And so there's really this need to make sure that the decisions that are made, the people that we're making decisions for, they need to be involved. They need to be included, right, in these decisions that are, or any of the services, the work that's being done. They need to be involved or included, right? And so um, while working on this, we were really like getting a lot of people asking for our input on how to like bring the parent voice into decision-making processes, how to engage more effectively. And at the same time, we were working on a project here in Ventura County. There's a population that's very it's highly dense, 20,000 in a small square foot area in Oxnard, California. And a huge portion of those families are Mixteco. And there was a need to find out, like, hey, what's going on with these families? We had the most first responder calls, the most children taken out of the home, the most CPS calls in this specific zip code. And we were tasked with finding out what was going on. And now, if you look at me, right, I'm just gonna say it. I'm a white girl, and going into a Mixteco community, I was not going to get anywhere. So we immediately were tasked. I was tasked with, all right, how are we going to do this? So I had that extra layer of like going into a community that they would look at me like, who is this person? You don't look like any of us. How do you know anything about our culture? So I immediately had to figure out how to get the parent feedback in this specific community. But I also want to mention doing the work throughout the state. We're very comfortable in Ventura County, but since we've been doing the statewide work, we go into these counties that we don't have any connections and we have to engage these parents. And so we've had to learn how to engage populations we are completely unfamiliar with. We've had to engage rural communities. We've had to engage parents um, of all ethnicities, all socioeconomic status, Medi-Cal, non-Medi-Cal. And so we've really learned a lot in the past, 7 years, at least 7 years. So I wanted just you all to remember the process of moving to a power with from a power over. And to amplify the parent voice and choice, it starts with basic considerations. So you have to have a deep understanding of the context and meaning for the parents as well as the provider organization. So at times, despite good intentions on the part of many, harm has been done to families by systems and approaches that did not consider their needs and preferences. They and you guys all can maybe attest to this. Sometimes, the agencies, I don't see it as much anymore, but they become like the gatekeepers to services. There was like these secret languages you had to know, or you had to know this in order to get this service, or your child had to check these boxes in order to get this service, right? So there was a lot of parents really felt like there was no trust. You had to know somebody, or you had to be in dire need where your child had to be completely suffering in order to receive any type of support or services. And so with let me see, sorry. We also have to have a willingness and capability to adopt an adaptive mindset. So authentic, sustainable engagement is uncharted territory for many. It requires us to realize we cannot do what we have done in the past to achieve different results. So what may have worked last year may be completely different. You guys know this. We work in social services, or probably many of you do. It's an ever-changing landscape. Things are constantly changing. So you have to make sure you know what's going on. Rather, we must be willing to step out of our silos, right? And know the best, the known best practices, and bridge person to person relationships. So really kind of shed a lot of those layers that maybe all the training and years of you have to be a certain way have formed us, right? And so sometimes you have to shed a lot of that in order to really connect with some of the community. And then also becoming an equity ally. So I'm going to chop up her name, but Nicole, she is the director of the diversity programs at the Mayo Clinic, defines the act of allyship as when a person of privilege works in solidarity and partnership with a marginalized group of people to help take down the systems that challenge that group's basic rights, equal access, and ability to thrive in our society. So becoming an ally, right? Shedding those layers and really understanding where the families are coming from, where they are, and their needs. All right, so time for that breakout session. You don't have to hear me talk the whole time. I want you all to really, when I put this together, I wanted you all to really engage with each other, learn from each other. And also just, hey, if you can make a connection, get somebody's, virtual business card. It's really important. These are not just about like learning from each other. It's also about meeting new people. So we have 8 minutes. You're going to be moved into a breakout session of about 6 people. You'll be discussing these questions. What strategies are you currently using to engage parents and caregivers? Even if you're not, learn from others and just be honest, transparent. Hey, we don't have anything. That's why I'm here. And what successes have you seen with these strategies? And then we'll come back after 8 minutes, and then we'll just do a quick share out. I'll just call on whoever raises their hand. So how did it go? I'm gonna open it up. If anyone would like to raise their hand, um, to maybe share. Anyone who wants to raise their hand and share what you might have learned.
I don't know how to raise my hand, but I can
Oh,
share.
sure, go ahead. Wow, that scared me. I was like, whoa, I was.
So
All right.
I'm fairly new to my role as a community navigator at the Family Resource Network at Inland Regional. So I haven't had a chance to really do this professionally yet. However, as a mother of a child who has autism, I do connect with parents in my community, especially those who I may be struggling or don't have their children and resources yet. And one thing I like to do is just share my experience with my daughter and how I got started with Regional Center. And I think that's really helpful, just meeting other parents where they're at in their experience and sharing that we're in the same boat.
Great. Anyone else?
I'll share a couple things we talked about. One was just a very pragmatic thing. One person was providing transportation to parents to actually come to the events to engage, and I think that's really important in some areas, thinking about who can get there and who can't get there, and then are we prioritizing just the people who already have some resources to be able to get there, and how are we reaching the others? And the other thing I mentioned was just the when you take in parent feedback, to show them kind of an immediate application of that feedback so that they actually feel like, okay, I'm being heard and things are, you know, I can see the results of that. If we asked parents, like, what topics do you want to hear? If we don't plan that topic the next month or shortly after, then they might feel like, oh, they didn't even care that I gave them ideas.
Oh, great. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. Anyone else want to share?
One thing that I liked, I think it came out of Santa Barbara, that she was mentioning using is scale rating questions, and the follow up from that was really valuable. Just asking what gets you to that number and what would help you bring that number up, and what would keep you from dropping below that number. Because we use some surveys here, although they're not utilized except for like outcome measurements. But I like the follow up from that. So it gave me some good insight on how we could use our surveys more interactively with parents.
Great. Anyone else want to share?
I feel like our group really had some great things to share. We all came from very different applications in the job. But one of the things we all talked about was sitting and listening and just being the ears for the parents and family. Um, Also to recognize the parent role, because not everybody recognizes them as important. Sometimes they get brushed along as just another thing to do. And also to give everyone the platform to share their experience.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Any other?
Hi, I would like to share.
Sure.
So what we use, I work for kids in no, I that was my old job. I work for Stars Therapy Services in San Diego, and what I've been using lately, and this because one of my supervisors and a few other people created this like cheat sheet, but I've been following up on. We take notes during our session after we meet with the families. We take notes, and then I reread the notes beginning of the next session, just so the parents have a reference, like, oh yeah, we worked on this and that. And then I usually give them homework every time we meet, and then I just follow up on their homework and like, how did it go? Like, what went well? What was hard? And then we try to come up with like ideas of what we could have changed differently. So they feel like, okay, you are, you do care about my child's goals that they need to meet, but also you're asking me if I am, and I didn't share this with my group, I totally forgot, but that we are refreshing like their memory, and we're also want to know like what worked, what didn't, what solutions do you have? Not just, I'm not just not the only one that's going to give you the solutions, but what solutions do you have as well?
Great. Thank you all for sharing. I'm going to move on. This is great information. And, you know, I was in one of the rooms, yeah, and the different strategies, you know, again, it boils down to who your audience is, right? If you have a bunch, if you're looking, like one person had mentioned, if you're looking to solicit or not solicit, elicit information or gather information from, you know, families who have been in have had an open case, you know, when you put that out there, there may be some people who feel ashamed or may just not feel like coming to a big group and sharing about this situation that could have been very traumatic for them or is currently traumatic. And so making sure that you really, you know, when you're trying to gather information or get that feedback, that you're working with somebody who has that similar situation. So just say you're like, okay, we need to gather feedback from parents and caregivers who have had open cases. Well, let's find one, and then really talk about how we can engage these parents and caregivers. And this person may have had a different experience than others. So it might be best to get a couple of people. So you have one parent who feels very open about sharing their experience. And then you have to realize there's some parents that don't feel comfortable sharing about their experiences. We have to always remember that, not even if we provide that space, right? A very safe space. Some people, just because of their own specific trauma or their own personalities, may not feel comfortable sharing in a large space. So we have to always be aware. You have to really think of every scenario and every situation. We have to shed those layers, get outside of what we know, and really think about everyone else. And that's really also pulling from the empathy that we all share being in the social service world. All right. Now, the Parent Engagement Toolkit. Do you guys all got a copy of the toolkit? If not, I'm sure it'll be sent to you or it was sent. So this toolkit is can be used in your organization or community. You read the toolkit, read it again, because you know, I don't know how many times I've read it. I'm one of those people, like I kind of skim through things and I'll skim through it again, and then I really am like, all right, I think I missed things. It's almost like a movie, right? You watch it a couple times and then you're like, all right, this stuck. And then depending on the situation, right? Don't just read it and then go and use it for this specific group. You know, if you have a different group of parents that with a different type of lived experience or different situations, read it again, because you might gather different information based on the different group that you're working with. So this isn't something that you read and put away. You read it every time, or you look through it and gather different information, write notes in it, right? This isn't the end all be all. Like, this is something for you to use depending on and every county is different, right? We travel throughout the state and we'll go into different counties and we talk to the parents in every different county. And yeah, a lot of the services and the issues may be similar, but the situation is different. Like where they live, they may not have this type of support. The county may not foster an open communication type of process. So you have to really be an active listener, and you have to really understand who you're talking to, or who you're trying to gather information from, who you're trying to engage. So on page 8, you'll see when you go into the toolkit, there's this great little plan of like how to go in and how to do, you know, how to engage the parents and caregivers. And, you know, just letting you know too, when we put together this toolkit, this is based off of our own personal experience as professionals, right? Working with parents and caregivers for quite a number of years. but also as a parent myself, as a parent working with other parents, as a leader of an organization. I put this together really also learning from others. So this isn't just my perspective, right? This is from also learning from others. These toolkits were put together from what parents have taught me, from what my parent has taught me, what I've learned as a parent, what our peers have taught. So this is really put together from so many different sources of information. So then you have the sorry, I don't know, hopefully you can't hear that, but the parent and caregiver engagement continuum. So this was taken from the International Association for Public Participation, an international professional organization that works to advance the practice of public participation globally. So it really is about moving from the power over to power with. So it's just like, instead of going from one-way communication to communication in both directions, right? Same thing with this training. I'm not here, I want to hear from you. You know, again, this isn't the end. If we have to, like, we're going to be working on our stated community report again in a couple months. If we can redo this and add in some things that you guys all recommend, right? So this is always a work in progress, and it's always communication goes in both directions, not just from one or the other telling somebody this and that. It's really a combined learning process. And it doesn't happen overnight, right? Trust takes time. So, you know, the objective on the first part, which is the educate and inform, is to provide clear and timely information to parents and caregivers about services, opportunities, important decisions affecting their children and families. Make sure they're aware of available services. So, you know, when you need the parent engagement, make sure you're offering them something. I mean, I think we always think like incentives, like I have to give them a gift card or I have to give them money. Yeah, that's always nice, right? Because we have to really be aware of their time and the time they're taken away from their family. And also just really pulling deep within to share something that may be uncomfortable, like, you know, so, and somebody had mentioned giving diapers to the parents. You know, how we get, you know, we do support groups, we provide a meal, we provide childcare at our support groups. We really kind of take away a lot of the barriers that would keep a parent from participating. We also, you know, you can also provide them with resources. You know, it's a matter of giving them something also that they can take with them, or the reason why they're coming. You know, it's not just to provide information and to help, but I'm also walking away with some great information. Let parents know about legislation. If you know about, you know, I think sometimes we think, oh, parents don't have time for that, or maybe they don't care. If you know about local legislation or even state legislation that would affect or impact their children, you know, just put it out there. Put that out there for the parents. We have if you go on our Parents and Caregivers Wellness website, we have a policy brief. It's a children's policy brief that we send out. It's a newsletter every month, and it's really broken down into digestible information for parents. So we work with California Mental Health Advocates for Children and Youth and CAMASI. We work with Marty from CAMASI, and we also work with California Alliance of Child Family Services. Adrienne Shilton is the policy director. She is like a wealth of information and has so much knowledge. We work with her to find out the latest legislation affecting families, and then we really work at putting the information out in digestible information, right? So that you can read it and understand it, because I know legislation and the law can be overwhelming. And that's really been helpful, and it gives parents an understanding of what's going on and as we see it as kind of and they see it as a higher level, we see it as a higher level. But I think sometimes we just don't, we think they're so busy, but parents really love that information. The parents that we've worked with, sending them up to date information. And so if you have parents interested in things, making sure you follow up and you send, if there's certain legislation and you're like, here's some legislation that could affect you. Thank you for putting that up there. Sorry, it just transitioned. Anyway, if you provide updates and let the families know, that's so important for them. And then you're building that trust, like they know to go to you for that information. So, you also letting them know about any changes or updates with programs, sending out emails or newsletters, letting people know like changes that are occurring that could affect them and their children. You're establishing that trust. You can use like newsletters, again, going back to our monthly mental health policy brief newsletter, emails. You can, meet parents one-on-one, depending on the language barrier, depending on even if some families may not even know how to read, right? We have to remember that. Understanding that there may be a language barrier, how to meet them, where they understand, how this information, how you can give them the information if they're not like, if they're not able to access emails or even a phone. You can text also. If there's like urgent alerts, you can also give out information at workshops, webinars, really tap into a lot of the local support groups. A support group is like one of the best places to start. Are you guys there? I'm sorry. I just all of a sudden lost my screen. Can you guys still see everything?
Yes, we can see, and we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. My apologies. I just completely lost my screen. Okay. Thank you for that. What do you guys see right now, if you don't mind me asking? Oh, I'm not in presentation mode anymore. Okay, let me put this up.
We can see engagement, the continuum for parents and caregivers.
My apologies. Let me stop and then I'm going to start screen share. It just like went blank. That was interesting. Okay. You guys see that now? All right, here we go. Okay, panic gone. All right. So anyway, going into asking for input, make sure that we ask for their opinions, right? We also actively seek input, better understand their needs, let them know about programs and then ask them how the program's working for them. And when you seek input, right, sometimes again, like mentioning the group setting, sometimes a group setting is great. You can put everyone in a group setting, let them know ahead of time, right? Be very transparent and say, we're going to be in a group setting. We're going to be discussing these certain situations, or we need to gather information from you. And then not calling on people, right? Because some people, again, they may have this trauma or they just may not feel like they can, they just don't feel comfortable sharing. So a lot of times what we see, and we have like, we'll do like a support group type setting, and then we'll just ask questions, and then parents start sharing. And then those who may not have opened up for fear or nervousness, we'll see others opening up and they may open up. Or sometimes what we've seen when we need to get input from parents is if we see that parent that's not opening up or sharing, we will set some time aside at the end of the presentation or at the end of the discussion and meet with them separately. So we had a case where we were trying to gather feedback from parents and caregivers in that high need area. We actually went to a mall and we, brought in some parents and said, hey, this is what we're, looking to gather. And we met, there was 4 of us, and we met with the parents separately. And we found out when we met with them separately that there was a higher need. Like they were looking for services for their children, but man, they were like renting a room with 5 kids, you know, in the same room, and they needed space, or, you know, they needed some diapers. And so what we went in for, and what we, you know, what our initial goal kind of got scrapped. We found that these families really needed some more support, so we really had to readjust. So you have to remember, like, sometimes you have to just readjust, and you may go in with a specific goal on gathering feedback, and then you have to change it all because you've got some parents who are really struggling. Establish that trust, sit with them on the side, establish that trust, be an active listener, right? All right. Then, you know, gather the input, what's not working, what's working. Also, you know, try to go in with strength-based. I know it's difficult when the parents might be struggling, so go in with some strength-based approaches. And, you know, when they're saying, oh, I'm really struggling with this, and then talk about some of the positive things that are going on in their life, if possible. There's also, you can use surveys. So we do surveys throughout the state. We do English and Spanish surveys, and then if we need to capture or gather feedback from other populations, then we'll reach out to a specific organization that works with that population and see if they can translate our surveys. And always finding that ally, right? Finding that person who has that connection with that community you're looking to work with. Again, focus groups is a way, but we try to not use the word focus group. We use discussion session, whatever works for the community, right? You can call it like a support group, and really you're trying to gather information. You can call it whatever it needs to be called for that specific group that you're working with. We have key informant interviews, or subject matter expert interviews, where we just one-on-one. We just have a one-on-one discussion with some of the families. You're going to get really valuable information from a one-on-ones. You're going to get them from a group setting. You're going to get them on surveys. You're going to get so it's really good to just throw it all out there like a wide net, and gather that feedback. Let's see why this matters. Let's see, let's go into regular check-ins. Make sure that we work continuously with them. You don't just one and done, right? You guys keep checking in, consistent engagement, regular check-ins, communication. Hey, if you know, when I get tons of emails on things like happening. And if I know they have a child that may be going into college, and I get an email about like, hey, there's these scholarships, I'll send it to that. Like, I'll send it, not as a newsletter. Sometimes it's a personal thing. Like, hey, I know your child's in high school right now. Here's this email that I got. And I swear, like, that is such a touch that they just feel really touched. Like it's personal engagement, right? And so I have a lot of families like that I remember, you know, and it can be a little overwhelming, or it can be exhausting, but when you make that connection with that parent, remember certain things. And when things come in your inbox or there's information, you can remember that parent, hey, I thought of you when I saw this. And that goes a long way. Make sure there's two-way dialogue. Make sure you let them know too. Hey, if you see anything about this, like find out something interesting, can you send it to me? Like I'd like to know more about that. Or if you know that they make, you know, we have a lady that makes the little gelatins. And you know, anytime we need anything, hey, you know, we're gonna have this grand opening. Can you, you know, we'll pay you if you can make this many gelatins. And then we still keep her in the loop, right? This is a parent that makes these little treats, and then she comes to our events, and so we also get information from her. Oh, hey, do you know of a taquero that we can contact? You know, so we just keep that relationship going. Make sure you actively listen too, and you fully understand what's going on. Like you listen, you take notes, and then you reread what you've heard. Or you can say, oh, this is what I understood, just correct me if I'm wrong. And then they can like, you know, because right, we all have different ways of hearing things and our perspectives. And, action-oriented responses. Once the concerns are understood, we take appropriate action, right? You can let them know. Like for instance, we had a family saying, hey, there needs to be a crosswalk in this area because the car speed and the kids are like, almost getting hit. All right, I heard that. You know what? Let's take that to the city council. And then, reaching out to the city council step by step, letting the parent know, hey, we reached out to the city council. I spoke to so-and-so, and they're going to have a city council meeting. And there's an opportunity for you to go discuss this crosswalk. You can hold monthly or quarterly meetings on concerns. Take steps, make sure that you follow up to ensure that they understand that the change is occurring. Be consistent, make sure that there's always a partnership. So this isn't just about you doing something or the parent doing something. This is a partnership, right? Hey, Lupe, I need a taquero. Like I said, it happens a lot. I'm constantly reaching out to parents asking for certain things. We just had a grand opening. Hey, do you know of anyone who makes, this? We're gonna have a grand opening. Can you help us with that? And you compensate, we make sure we compensate, and then we involve and include the parent, and then we even let the parent come, and then they'll talk to other parents, and just be a part of the whole situation. And all right, let me go. So it's a constant partnership. I want you to remember that when you work with parents and caregivers and you engage with them, it's a partnership. Sometimes you have to let them lead. Make sure they're fully involved. I think initially they maybe, sit back and listen, but let them know this is a safe space and that they can always lead when there's that opportunity. And sometimes they're going to look to you like, hey, I am in no way, the person with the experience here, or I'm not the decision maker. I feel more comfortable with you making the decision. Then so be it, but just make sure that the parent feels comfortable saying that to you. And trust in their expertise, right? Gosh, I wrote a lot on this slide. Okay, let me move over. I feel like I've been in this slide forever. Okay, let's move over to the next slide. All right, so this is co-powering. So remember, we've been using the term empower. And I think it does kind of it's a disservice to some of the parents, right? Because we're learning from the parents as well. And so when we say we're empowering, it's almost like it's a power over, like we're providing them with this information, but really we're learning from them too. Like I only know what I know because I've learned from so many parents. And so it's more of a co-powering. We're working off of each other. And this slide really is kind of just kind of reiterating or a shortened version of the other slide. All right. We're gonna have a poll. So this is the second poll. What do you see as the biggest challenge in engaging parents and caregivers? Lack of resources, communication barriers, cultural differences, other. You can write it in the chat. I don't even want to go in the chat. I'm kind of nervous to go in there because the minute I start pushing buttons, like I lose you guys again, and I don't want to go through that. All right, it looks like the biggest challenge so far is the lack of resources. Lack of resources. I know it's really difficult, right? Like, even, we have a grant, federal grant, and they only allow us to feed the families $3 a person. Like, swear, not even McDonald's is $3. The Happy Meals are like $4 now. Okay, so, all right, it looks like we can end the poll. Lack of resources is the number one. Communication barriers, absolutely. Cultural differences. All right. Now, We are going to go into our next breakout. We are, and see, I'm like talking a lot, so we're kind of running short on time. But again, I think we'll do, how about we do 6 minutes? Can we do 6 minutes? We'll do a quick, what are the barriers? Now that you guys have learned a couple of the, strategies in gathering parent feedback, what are some of the barriers? So you're going to go into a breakout room, you're going to have 6 minutes to discuss some of the barriers and how the cultural differences impact your engagement efforts. And then we'll come back and then we'll do like a quick share like we did before. Welcome back, everyone. It's me again. Dun, dun, dun. So last time I know I had to share out, but we have 15 minutes. See, that's me. I can talk all day, like seriously. And I had like extra caffeine this morning, so double negative. So I'm gonna go through, because I know you guys are here to learn about strategies. So if you can, whatever you learned in your breakout session, if you learned something really important, or you're leaving your breakout session with a really great information or a great thought or even some questions, please drop them in the chat. And if you have any questions, you can also put it in the Q&A. I'm going to get into the strategies now, the meat and potatoes of this nice dinner we have here. So anyway, just going over the recommended strategies here. Of course, establish a vision when you're any type of engagement. So if you're tasked with gathering feedback or getting input from parents and caregivers, establish a vision, have clear strategies. Make sure you use their preferred language. I know somebody was saying the language barrier, you don't have interpreters. We have used language people for interpreters. It's a little difficult. They've been pretty helpful, but reach out to look up your local, you can also look or Google local translators, interpreters. You can always reach out to me. We have an interpreter we use all the time. She's wonderful. If you need other languages, again, I think you might have my contact information. You can email me. We do presentations throughout the state, so I have a lot of connections or contacts that speak different languages or dialects throughout the state. So can always try to make a connection. I'm not going to promise anything, right? Again, same thing with parents. Don't promise anything that you can't do. Also, go to where the parents are. If you really need to, so for instance, when we had to gather feedback from the Mixteco population here in Ventura County, a lot of the families, where we were tasked with attending live in a certain area. We went to the mall in that area. It's a little strip mall, and we just, asked to use specific space, and then we just kind of talked to families in the mall, to wherever they were. We also have a place parents can come to as well. Lead with wellness, use a strength-based approach, of course, but you have to remember we went into a couple of meetings with parents with a strength-based approach, and sometimes parents can really go down into a dark hole of, or of really getting into that space of needing more, but make sure you also listen to that. That is just as important as gathering the information you want to receive, is gathering information you didn't ask for. That's just as important. It's almost like a survey. The questions that some don't answer, that can tell you just as much as the questions they answered. Why aren't you answering that question? What's going on, So just make sure you even gather the information you're not gathering. Draft questions ahead of time. And again, if you have to go off course a little bit, make sure that you read the room, right? You really read the room, read the family, read their body language, understand where they are. Let them really guide you. Do not ask why, ask how. Staff should also adopt shared perspectives. quite honestly, I used to teach a parenting class before I was a parent, and I remember the parents were like, "Why are you teaching me? You don't know," like straight out. And so really, even if you're not the parent with lived experience, having another parent there with lived experience, if that's what you're gathering. Understand the culture from an inside out perspective. Approach with cultural humility and approach with respect and never with a checklist or a sense of doing a job. And a relationship matters. Make sure you have those positive connections. Again, like I said, it's this collaboration, this working relationship with that family. We have families we've worked with for years, and now they're coming back and sharing their story and helping out our fundraisers because we've established this really great relationship. Focus on a power with and not a power over. All right. Let's see. And some other thing, alphabet soup, we call it. Stop with the acronyms. Right? The acronyms are just where you have to explain everything, spell it all out for the parents or refrain from using things that are too difficult to even say, right? Watch out with stigmatizing words. Like we tend to try to stay away from words like disturbed or even disorder. Sometimes we just say needs or wellness. Depending on the culture, mental health might not even be a word. So understanding which words to use, using wellness, and this is another picture I was gonna say from a parent whose child is autistic during as an autistic child during COVID and how they felt. Sorry, I just got off. Make sure you become an active listener and repeat what they say so you understand. They understand that you're understanding what they're saying. And then guard their privacy. Provide space for sharing their fears and concerns. Some families may feel ashamed, and make sure everyone is involved. If you have to bring the kids in, sometimes you have to let the kids know, like, this is going to be a heavy topic, or let the other parents know, somebody just, this person decided to bring their child in, if the parent understands that this is going to be a heavy conversation, we try to refrain from bringing in the younger kids into the heavy conversations, but it depends on the family dynamic. Don't just assume. All right, we're gonna have a group discussion. We have like a couple minutes left. I think I just have a couple more slides, but I want to hear from you all. I want you to drop in the chat, or even if anyone wants to share some innovative or creative strategies for parent engagement. Does anyone want to share like a creative strategy? I'd like to hear it. I think we all can benefit from hearing about any creative strategies for engagement. Any hands? I can't see anything.
I'll unmute and just,
There you go.
and keep in mind, I haven't used this for a while, but I used to work in a school and it was kind of handy. There is an app called Talking Points. If you've ever used Remind for schools, Talking Points is similar, but it theoretically specializes in language translation. So it'd be a way for you to text in your home language and it would be received on the other end in somebody else's chosen language. It's probably not a perfect translation. We all know that things get lost in translation, but it's it's called Talking Points. Yeah. Yes, Christine, that's right. It's not a bad place to start and at least kind of attempt for some basic reach out stuff to families who have communication barriers.
I love that. Thank you for that. Thank you, Zoe. Anyone else? Creative strategies? All right. It looks like everyone's being shy. And again, see, when I do this, I just somehow lost my screen again. I apologize for that. Okay. So you guys can still see my screen, right? So the parent voice and choice, make sure that when you're implementing anything, it's a team approach. You have a couple of people available. So again, like I said, when we've reached out to parents and caregivers, we make sure we have at least 3 people available. We have, always have somebody with the lived experience, depending on the situation you're trying to gather feedback from. And if you have to pull families aside and they don't want to share in a team setting, you have somebody who's taking notes. You meet on their turf. Hospitality, a welcoming environment, make sure that you make it a safe space for them. When we have some of our support groups where we work with the population I had discussed, the Mixteco, our facilitators make like warm meals, and so like they'll make pozole, they'll make they'll make meals that the participants can relate to and feel comfortable eating. And it's that shared, it's almost like an added layer of trust that you're building, right? Oh, okay. Oh, they like this type of food too, and they're feeding me. Sorry. And make sure that you guys share the knowledge, let them know that you're learning from them as well. And be real, right? Be real and transparent about the whole situation. You let them know, why you're gathering this information, what you're going to use this information for, and then let them know, like, for instance, when we have our we have these state of the community reports, we talk to the parents. Can we use some of your quotes? We're going to use some of your pictures. Here you go. We put it in and then we share it. Make sure that when you structure your engagement, timing is important. No one likes to run around, be straightforward. Basic needs come first, and meeting them builds trust. So make sure and establishing those relationships, an ongoing relationship, right? And make the message accessible, and then create on-ramps. Sorry, I'm rushing through because we only have a couple minutes left. So these are some of the parents we have an advocacy day at the Capitol. So we have a full day where we invite parents from throughout the state to the Capitol, and we'll select specific legislation. We help the parents digest the legislative information, and then we connect the parents with their local assembly members, and then the parents get to share their stories. We have a wonderful day of collaboration, working with the state assembly members and senators. And so you can see some of these, the parent quotes. So we actually met with the far right, that's me. We met with Senator Portantino. And some of the parents' advocacy day helped my child understand the importance of how using your voice and representing or speaking for the people that cannot always speak for themselves is vital. And this is a mix of parents and professionals, and Senator Portantino just listened. And then he provided his insight and we provided ours. He heard our stories. It was wonderful. All right. How can you use this tool? Well, you guys all have access to this tool and this toolkit. You have the plan, you have all of the information. I think I provided you with enough information and strategy. I didn't realize it was going to take, I actually could use some more time, right? But you gathered some feedback from our discussion, from your breakout sessions, from the chat. And I really would like you to utilize this toolkit. That's your homework. Use this toolkit. Go through the different strategies, put together a plan, work it out, learn from what you heard from others today, take some of that information and implement it. Work through it. If you need to contact me, my email address is probably somewhere, or I think Caltrin can give you my email address. You can always reach out to me. And here's some contact us information. All right, I don't know, I lost am I still screen sharing?
You can see it. This is actually the final screen, which is perfect timing because this is for Caltrin. So we just want to say thank you all around. We want to say thank you to the participants for being here today, for joining us, and for actively participating in the breakout sessions. We do appreciate that. And to, of course, our presenter, Melissa, we want to say thank you for being with us. Thank you for bringing your expertise and your information with us today. You can see the thank yous in the chat, all the thank yous. That's great. I love those. And then from a Caltrin perspective, we are going to be dropping into the chat more than once. It's already in there, but we'll do it a couple more times. We're going to drop a survey and certificate of attendance into the chat. So if you click that link, that stays open, by the way, after we close the session, that link will ask you a very brief survey about your experience today, and then it'll give you access to your certificate of attendance. And with that, we want to say thank you all so much for being here. We look forward to having you in the next session, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. See you soon, everybody.
Thank you.